The answer, path, profound and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in billions of eons. I now see it, hear it, receive it, uphold it, and vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us generate the supreme bodhicitta. Well, today we're going to begin our last class on the Mahayana Vaipulya Sutra of Total Retention. Before the actual class, I would like to address one festival, and that is the International Vegetarian Day, which will begin, which is on November 25th. This particular Vegetarian Day started all the way back in 1986. Around that time, about 9.5 million people advocated for vegetarianism worldwide, for a day to celebrate vegetarianism worldwide, at least meatless day. And it was originated from India, but later on it became an international holiday or international day of celebrating vegetarianism. The International Vegetarian Day is different than World Vegetarian Day. The World Vegetarian Day sets the date on October the 1st. And this World Vegetarian Day started in North America back in 1977, and at the time it was called World Vegetarian Day. So October the 1st is the World Vegetarian Day, which is placed of great importance in the West, especially in the United States. On that day, over millions of people will practice vegetarianism in terms of their diet. In fact, many people, many vegetarians do not eat meat is not because of their belief or compassion. Rather, people practice it to protect our world, to protect our earth, and some to maintain their health. That's why they become vegetarians. But in these special days, people around the world, even the ones who do not have any belief, even if they do not have any compassion or care to the animals, but the ones who only become vegetarians for their health purposes, they would advocate for vegetarian or being vegetarian for a day. Therefore, ourselves as Buddhists, we should definitely practice vegetarianism on these days as well. In fact, the International Vegetarian Day started in Asia, but World Vegetarian Day started in North America. So it is definitely a globe-wide advocacy. Vegetarianism is a very important philosophy or a lifestyle nowadays. Not only it is beneficial to your health, it also protects the lives of other beings. On top of that, it also protects our environment. So there are lots of benefits in terms of vegetarianism or becoming a vegetarian. I believe our audience over here as Buddhists, it's easy for you to become vegetarian. But I remember that back in the 70s, lots of people were having problems of becoming vegetarians, especially around the beginning of the 70s. So at that time, I made the regulation that those people who eat meat should not attend my classes. And then later on, slowly, people don't eat meat anymore. Lots of followers stopped eating meat. In Tibet, in fact, in terms of vegetarianism, it was not a popular lifestyle back then, but around 80s and 90s, Larangar started to advocate for vegetarianism, and it was very successful. In many Tibetan monasteries, in fact, all of their meals are of vegetarian meals. Even if monastics go to chant prayers or practice in the lay practitioner's household or invited to practice in their household, the meals offered are mainly vegetarian meals as well. So on one hand, we should advocate for vegetarianism, to advocate for on one hand, we're doing it for our health. On the other, we're doing it for the compassionate reasons. This is quite necessary. I believe all of our audience here are vegetarians, or most of them, but in fact, previously, I heard a story. A Khenpo was attending the event, so he drove there, and halfway through, he met a Buddhist, a Tibetan woman who's a Buddhist, and they drove for the whole day, and when they stopped at a place to eat meat, so that to eat their meal, and then that Khenpo asked, "So do you eat meat or are you vegetarian?" And then the lay practitioner said that, "Of course I'm vegetarian. It's too horrid to eat meat." So the Khenpo said, "Okay, so he will eat also vegetarian meals as well." Especially after he heard from the lay practitioner who is very determined to only eat vegetarian. Because of the education difference, we have to admit that in terms of vegetarianism, the Tibetan Buddhism are very different than those of the Chinese Buddhism. I don't want to speak too much about the differences, or I don't want to say who's better or not, but I think Chinese Buddhism is doing very well in terms of vegetarianism. Around 1500 years ago, Emperor Liang started this advocacy for vegetarianism, and then it went really well. So that kind of impact lasted till today. Thinking about that there are great kings and great masters who would advocate for something, maybe it would be popular for a little period of time, a short period of time, but after a little while, maybe that kind of activities would not be long-lasting. So sometimes I think to myself, maybe this Emperor Liangwu must be a bodhisattva because of his great aspiration. His advocacy of vegetarianism lasted for a long period of time, and and also propagated for extended such kind of impact to a large area. So before the actual class, I wanted to address this. Tomorrow we don't really have any large activities or anything. Lamas and Jomos, the Tibetan Lamas and Jomos, usually they would host some simple speeches. I heard some Tibetan Lamas and Jomos are also advocating for activities and events for vegetarianism, but I don't think it made a big impact yet. But in this year, it's only a simple activity. So far, I haven't heard any promotions or any plans yet. I only heard that there are some restaurants around this area. They're going to send some meals into Laronggar, and there are lots of different meals. In fact, Laronggar is a very pure practice center. We don't have any restaurants that serves non-vegetarian meals. This is the changes that we've made throughout the years, and we have to keep to our vegetarianism. In fact, these kind of changes are due to the long-term advocacy of vegetarianism or long-term teaching of compassion through Buddha Dharma. It really needs everyone's cooperation. This is quite important. As vegetarians, I think we should spread the spirit of vegetarianism through your own platform. Of course, it has to be legal, it has to be appropriate, and you can send lots of maybe aphorisms, maybe some philosophies. So this is quite necessary. Nowadays, I notice that lots of the Buddhists on their own platforms, they sometimes would send out or post really strange posts. Some of them are neither Buddha Dharma nor the relative teachings. I don't even understand what it means. In fact, they're sometimes even more difficult than the root stanzas of Madhyamika. I'm not sure what's the secret meaning behind those. I think rather than posting those strange postings, it would be better for us to post some philosophies or some teachings that would transform others' mind, that would promote kindness. This is what we need to promote as Buddhists. So that's what I wanted to say at the beginning of the class. I'm not going to spend too much time. I probably spoke a little bit extra today, but don't worry, I'm not going to spend too much time on it. Let's look at the teachings today. Yesterday, we've already talked about many different types of slandering the Dharma. I really hope that each of you in the audience can understand and try to internalize those teachings. Also, without really giving the teaching, even there are people who are probably quite smart, but it's hard to say if they can really understand the teaching if the teachings are not taught by a teacher. Even if they're very smart, even if they have lots of wisdom. So previously, we've already talked about lots of the different categories of slandering the Dharma. We should contemplate upon those teachings more often. I hope that you should remember those. Don't forget about them in 3 days of time. There are people who would think at the beginning, oh, this is quite horrid. I shouldn't talk about other people's mistakes. I have to be very careful. with my body, speech, and mind, but after 3 days, they would forget about it. That shows that is a sign of lack of right mindfulness and a sign of lots of negative habitual patterns. In fact, I think if you were to have such kind of habit, it would be quite a pity. Pansok Rinpoche gave teachings 24 years ago. I can't say that I remember all of his teachings, but I remember quite a bit of it. And I think we should try to internalize such teachings into our mind. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. Then, furthermore, Manjushri, whether voice hearers pronounce the Dharma, whether bodhisattvas pronounce the Dharma. Over here, what does it mean by voice hearer pronounce the Dharma? On one hand, it means that if you were to have the capacity to deliver the teaching of the Shravakas, that's one aspect of it. You are then the voice hearer's Dharma pronouncer. Or, according to the Tibetan translation, it's a little bit different than the Chinese. According to the Tibetan, it says that the voice hearer pronounced the Dharma, which then means that if you were to pronounce such kind of Shravaka Dharmas, such as Abhidharma and Vinaya Sutra, all of those are the Shravaka's teachings. Or the Bodhisattva pronounced the Dharma, or the Dharma that is of the Mahayana, such as the collection of the Mahayana Sutra Shastra, or the Bodhisattva Charyavatara and root stanzas of Madhyamika. All of such are the Bodhisattva pronounced Dharma. And all of such know that it is entirely by virtue of the awesome spiritual power of the Tathagata's protection and consideration, which enables bodhisattvas and others to say what they say. So, with the Tathagata's protection, with his consideration, with his manifestation, and the awesome power of the Tathagatas, we can speak of, we can pronounce the Dharmas of the Mahayana and of the Theravada. We should be very clear about that. In fact, not only our teaching of the Dharma, we should know that even understanding the Dharma is based on the blessings. It comes from the blessings of the Tathagata, without which we won't be able to understand the teaching of this sutra or any sutras. The ones who are incapable of understanding the sutras, such as the beings in the animal realms, on one hand it is because of their karmic obscuration, on the other it is because that the Tathagatas cannot appear in front of them and give them blessings because of their karmic obscurations. As we have already studied that, why can't we slander the Dharma teachers? Why do we say that the Dharma teachers are of the object of quite severe karmic retributions? It is to say that the Dharma teachers are the representatives of the Tathagatas, and the teaching itself from them are because of the Tathagata's blessings. Some of those teachers may have given you teachings or may not. Let it be either way. You should not slander such kind of teachers. Maybe some of them do not have the certificate of becoming Khenpos and Khenmos, or they don't have such titles yet. But maybe because they chant the sutras, maybe because they do the mantras and give the others the teachings of do not practice any evil and practice all the good. Even if they give teachings to the others as simple as that, we should not say that they're not Dharma teachers, because over here the Dharma teachers or Dharma propagators are from a rather vast aspect. It is quite extensive, so we should not really say talk about anyone's misdeeds. There's a sutra, it talks, the sutra's name is the well-respected, the sutra on the well-respected. The content is not a lot, where it talks about even if the teacher has mistakes, we should not talk about them. Don't even mention if the teacher does not have any mistakes. The kind of Dharma teachers, even if they have mistakes, we should not talk about them, or we should not gossip about that and talk about it with others. Don't even mention about if that person does not have any mistakes, any misdeeds. The so-called Dharma teacher are the ones who even give teachings to the others with one simple stanza. Let it be listening or reading. Then that person can be considered as a Dharma teacher. There are people, though, are not Dharma teachers in front of other people, but they are teachers to, let's say, yaks. They would use their prayer wheels in front of yaks and chant Om Mani Padme Hum, and then those are the teachers as well. So over here, the Buddha said that Manjushri, even now the fools slander the Buddha. Some of the fools, even during the Buddha's time, they slandered the Buddha. Don't even mention that there are the fools after the parinirvana of the Buddha. They will slander. That's the foolishness of sentient beings. After the Buddha said that after my parinirvana, how can Dharma masters who accept and uphold my Dharma not be slandered by them? Why? Because these fools are the retinues of the Maras. According to the Tibetan version and according to Dhammarakshas translation, instead of saying that they are the retinues of the Maras, it says that they are blessed by the Maras or powered by the Maras. Because of such kind of people are powered by the Maras, many beings would slander the Buddha, and when the Buddha is no longer abiding in this world, they would abide the so-called representatives of the Buddha that are the master teachers. Because these beings are blessed by the Maras, therefore their minds and hearts are not of the normal state. Nowadays, lots of the great masters would post different announcements on their official website saying that there are people who use their names to ask for alms, beg for alms, and use their names to propagate themselves, or use their names to say that they are the dakinis of certain masters. And all those kind of actions forced the great masters to have to post those announcements on their official website, because slandering a single person or slandering the person is not that severe, but if one were to continue to do that, it could destroy the willingness to start to study the Dharma of the sentient beings. There are people who have their personal agenda to lie to the others, or they're the ones who are not of the normal mind, the state of mind. And there are people who would slander others because of their jealousy. Anyhow, people have different agendas to do so. Inside our monastery, in fact, any kind of activities that we have, let it be building statues or making offering to the Sangha. In fact, we have never publicly or privately asking for alms. When we say that we do not ask for alms, the ones who are blessed by the Maras, they would say that no. The Guru definitely wants alms. He's just saying that. He has his secret meaning. In fact, there is no such thing. So there are the ones who are blessed by the Maras. They do not understand what is to be understood. They only understand what they want to understand. And in such a way, this is not very good for the whole sangha and not very good for the whole center. I've been here for over 30 years. Let it be relative or not relative, I have never asked for alms. I've never begged for money, never fundraised to build statues or to print books or to relieve life. I've never done that because people are best knowers of themselves, and I know myself. I think that other great masters are like such as well. They have such pure actions and activities. The three jewels are their witnesses. But there are times I have to make an announcement in my memory. There are some big events, so I have to make announcements as well to clarify my intention, including back in 2016 when I was giving teachings on the Lotus Sutra. There were many different voices, and I had to make an announcement on my official platform as well. Anyhow, people's mind are just like described in the Dharma-Raksha's translation. It says that if they were disturbed by the Maras, they are not in the normal state. And people at that state, they will speak anything that they wish, or they would manipulate others in the state of mind that they're not even aware of. Anyhow, whenever we see people, let them be begging for alms or slandering or any kinds of things, we should use our wisdom to analyze first. We should not follow the others. We should not follow the others blindly. Otherwise, you maybe end up being deceived without even understanding or knowing it. Nowadays, especially after the pandemic, I think lots of the economic or financial situations of others are not in a good place. In Tibet, we say that if we don't have wood in one household, then people tend to then people would end up wanting to burn their house. So without any wealth, there are people who are forced to, they're forced or they're pushed to a state or situation to steal the wealth of the neighbors. Similarly, people nowadays, they want to use all kinds of excuses to collect wealth, and without even caring to deceive the others. Many things are like this. In the Tibetan, so I heard from the Tibetans that nowadays there are people who are selling the Dharma prayer wheels, and they cost about 110 RMB. And then, if you purchase it, you can go to Pure Land right away, or directly go to Pure Land. A few Tibetan WeChat's platforms are spreading it. It seems that it costs less than traveling to Chengdu. If you were to travel to Chengdu, it costs about 200-ish. But for 110, you can be reborn in Pure Land, and many people would believe it. Anyhow, know that they will go down to the evil life path. As these fools greedily seek benefits and worship to support their kinfold, they not only have faith in the Dharma of the Tathagata, but also destroy the Dharma taught by the Tathagata. So previously, we've already learned that there are the ones who slander the Dharma and slander the Dharma teacher because they are being powered by the Buddha. And there's another layer of teaching over here, or another meaning. It says that after parinirvana of the Buddha, some, in order to generate or gather their benefits, though have no faith towards the Tathagata, they still use the name of the Dharma and Tathagata to advertise for their personal gains and destroy the Tathagata's teaching. How do they do that? It is that they would gather their kinfolks. They would gather lots of their friends together and make different kinds of advertisement and promotions, and they would have such kind of mind and visit the families of Brahmas, of the benefactors, of the wealthy ones, of the great sages, and then they would visit all the wealthy and the powerful, and just started to praise these kind of people, saying that, for example, if I'm a charlatan, my group started to make all kinds of propagations and telling others that, this teacher is the manifestation of the Tathagata, and this teacher is the reincarnation of so-and-so, knows all the Dharma teachings and knows all the capacities of sentient beings, and have all kinds of understandings and clairvoyance and all the teachings. But the sentient beings, their kinfolks with a clannish mind, go to the household of Brahmins, the elders, to praise these fools and claim that they know and understand the Dharma and its meanings, that they're good at explanation because they know others' capacities and desires. These fools accept others' trust and offerings without any sense of shame or dishonor because they malign the Dharma. Both they and their retinues will fall into hell. I think these kinds of things happen nowadays. Mipa Rinpoche said that if one were to use the language of deceit and lies, one should not even praise one's teacher if one were to have such kind of agenda and languages. So these kinds of people definitely have their personal agendas. They do not give empowerment because of their compassion for the sentient beings. Rather, they practice such to gain benefits, to gain benefactors' offerings, or to gain fame. If one were to practice in such a way with these kinds of intentions, then they are slandering the Dharma. Yes, from the look of it, they didn't say so-and-so teacher is not good, but they said that their teacher is omniscient or knows all the teachings. But this kind of activity is also called slandering the Dharma, and because of such, anyone who made connection with such kind of person will also fall into the lower realms. And this kind of teaching is the impure teaching, the impure propagation of Dharma, because it is out of the personal agendas. This is definitely impure. When I was giving teachings of Uttara Tantra Shastra, I talked about the 5 kinds of impure teachings. First one, it says that one claims that one completely understood the teachings of the Tathagata. If one were to say that, definitely that person does not speak of the pure Dharma. And the second one is claiming that sutras are in contradiction with the other sutras. The third one is that with lots of doubts, without any faith, without any understanding of the Dharma, then that kind of person does not have true faith. The fourth one is that if one were to slander the other Dharma teachers or to slander the sutras and shastras. The fifth one is giving teachings out of the intention of gaining fame and wealth. So all of those are considered as the impure types of Dharma teachings, and they will fall into the hell realm after teaching the Dharma. If we were to have the pure mind and the mind of benefiting others, the altruistic mind to propagate the Dharma, we will be of no mistake. Rather, we would have lots of great merit. If you were to generate generate the kind of aspiration, thinking that in the future lifetimes the sentient beings are quite poor and really pitiful because they won't be able to hear the Dharma. And because I've heard some Dharma teachings, I know if the other sentient beings do not receive them and do not understand it, then they would lead to a life that is full of suffering. With this kind of aspiration, if one were to give teachings to the others, then it is quite meaningful. But on the other hand, if you have the intention to only benefit and cherish yourself, then such kind of karmic retribution would be quite horrid. To continue, the Buddha talked about the 5 kinds of unqualified Dharma students. So he continued to say that Mandashriya do not pronounce the bodhisattva action to the non-believers. If the ones who do not have any belief, then it is like the burned seed that cannot sprout. So the Buddha would not give teachings to such kind of beings. And the second one, nor do I pronounce the pure Dharma to those who are attached to family life. So if you were to only wanting to enjoy your life, have lots of grasping towards your family, and have lots of anger towards your foes, for such kind of beings, I will not give them the pure teaching of the Dharma stated by the Tathagata, nor do I pronounce the Dharma of the liberation to those who adhere to the view of dualism. The ones who have the view of dualism, the ones who insist on either existent or empty, or impermanent, or permanent, or nihilistic. For the kind of beings who hold on to the dualistic view, then this kind of person would not be able to understand the teaching of liberation. Therefore, the Tathagata do not give them teachings. Nor do I pronounce the supra-worldly Dharma, the transcendental Dharma, to those who adhere to the view of monism. That is to say that the ones who hold on to that all of the Dharma teachings are of empty, and other than emptiness there is nothing else. So to this kind of beings, the Buddha do not teach the transmundane Dharma, maybe give the teachings of the worldly Dharma. And the fifth one is, nor do I pronounce the pure true Dharma to those who delight in worldly life. Over here, we learned about the 5 types of people who do not or cannot receive the Dharma teachings from the Tathagata. I think maybe many of you are not very confident about yourself anymore, but I think the majority of us are still pretty good. Though we cannot give up everything in our household, but we can at least see through the illusory quality of a lot in terms of the dualism or monism, or enjoy this worldly life. We cannot say that we're completely abandon all of such, but at least we understand what they are. So I think we should then investigate ourselves and observe ourselves. The Buddha, in fact, not only saying to all sentient beings only on the teachings of emptiness or Pure Land practice. Rather, the Buddha gives teachings to the sentient beings according to their different intention and to their different capacities. And in different worlds, in front of different sentient beings, the Buddha has taught the Buddha Dharmas, that is, of the numbers of the sands in Ganges rivers, such as the ones who enjoy emptiness and the ones who enjoy Pure Land practices and to enjoy the Zen practices. So different kinds of teachings are taught to different sentient beings. Instead of saying that the Buddha only taught Pure Land, you don't need to look into others. Or if you are studying Zen Buddhism, you should only study Zen Buddhism. You don't need to read into the others because they're all relative. if you were to make such kind of statement, you're definitely slandering the Dharma. If you were to see that there are beings who really take delight in Tantrayana teachings, then you can say that, well, Tantrayana is supreme, but you cannot say that all the other dharmas are not supreme other than Tantrayana. You should not say that at all. Manjushri with a mind clinging to nothing. What it means that clinging to nothing, the mind that clings to nothing, shows that without any the wishlessness, the appearancelessness, and emptiness are the three liberation gates. And over here, the mind of no clinging means that the Buddha will teach the people as many Dharma doors as the sands of Ganges. Then with mind seemingly attached to something, I also teach the sentient beings as many Dharma doors as the sands of Ganges. If sentient beings delight in emptiness, I pronounce them the Dharma of emptiness. According to the Dhammarakshas version, there are the numbers of Ganges, the sands of the Ganges River. Over here we say that the sands of Ganges rivers, but in Dhammarakshas version only says that the sands of rivers. And to continue, if sentient beings delight in knowledge, I pronounce to them the Dharma of knowledge. If sentient beings delight in no appearance, I pronounce them to the Dharma of no appearance. No appearance is one of the three liberation gates, if you remember. If sentient beings delight in appearance, I pronounce to them the Dharma of appearance. Previously, it was delight in the Dharma of no appearance, and this one is delight in the Dharma of appearance. If sentient beings delight in loving kindness, the great loving kindness, then I pronounce to them the Dharma of loving kindness. If sentient beings delight in causality, I pronounce to them the Dharma of causality. If sentient beings delight in no causality, I pronounce to them the Dharma of no causality. Other Dharmas I have pronounced include the all-inspiring deportment and the non-all-inspiring deportment. The all-inspiring deportment such as upholding precepts. And the non-awe-inspiring deportment. Then the Buddha also gives the teachings of the Dharma, numbers in the sands of Ganges rivers. If one delights in emptiness or delight in the teachings of existence, that is which of samskrata, that which is asamskrata. Over here it means relative and ultimate. So to the beings who delight in relative, then the Buddha will give them teachings as many as the numbers of sands in Ganges rivers of Dharma teachings, and similarly to the ones who delight in the ultimate teachings. Holy beings and ordinary beings. Holy beings and ordinary beings refers to the teachings. According to Tibetan version, it means the ones who In the Tibetan translation, it means samsara and nirvana. And the ones who take delight in the worldly dharma, then the Buddha also gives them the many teachings as the sands of Ganges rivers. And then false forms, ways to draw in sentient beings. The ones who take delights in the forms, or the ones who take delights in the non-virtue, such as the three poisons, such as greed and anger and desire. So if there are beings who take delight in greed, then the Buddha gives them teachings as many as the numbers of sands in Ganges River. And if the ones who take delight in anger and takes delight in desire, then the Buddha also gives them such teachings and such numbers of teachings. And the ones who are fools, the ones who take delights in the set dharma. Over here, the set dharma could mean the dharma that is decided, or the dharma teaching on meditation. Over here, it could mean either way. So the Buddha gives various ones the teachings as many as the numbers of sands in Ganges rivers. So the Buddha gives different sentient beings numerous teachings, numerous dharma doors. If we were to only jump into conclusion with our single one sentence by saying that this is true and that is not, this is right and that is not, then we become the ones who speaks of the two. Then it is not appropriate. Yesterday I said that we should uptake mainly Mahayana or mainly Theravada. I wanted to emphasize on mainly. It is because I don't want to create such kind of negative karma of slandering the Dharma. So I think you should be very careful with it too. Therefore, whenever we say that we should mainly focus on the sentient beings who can receive the Mahayana teachings and so on, we should be very careful with our speech. Otherwise, for the ones who have never studied this sutra, they have no idea how horrid the karmic retribution would be. The Buddha then told Manjushri, Dharma such as these are the way of Prajnaparamita, the words of those fools which malign the true Dharma of the Buddha are not in accord with the pure, true teaching of the Tathagata. This is quite horrid, isn't it? And then Manjushri asked the Buddha, saying that, world-honored one, as you say, such fools, because they are close to evil friends, step forward to voice their slander. Maybe because they're close to their evil friends, or because of their previous karmic connections to the evil friends, maybe they have already slandered the Dharma. Then, world-honored one, through what causes and conditions can they avoid this fault? Over here, we already are aware that we've made lots of negative karmas, maybe because of the influence of evil friends, or maybe under the influence of the circumstances. But since we've already made such kind of karmic retribution, such kind of negative karma, then how can we confess it and how can we avoid it? So starting from here, the Buddha started to give teachings of how to confess. The Buddha then told Manjushri, for 7 years in the distant past, day and night in the 6 periods, I repent of the grave sins I had committed with my body, voice, and mind. After being purified, it took me 10 kalpas to acquire the endurance in Dharma. According to Dharma Rakshas, it doesn't have the subject of I. It just says that if there are women, the good women and men who can practice day and night in the 6 periods. So it could be a way of practicing. It says that if one were to practice day and night for 6 periods, then such kind of confession could purify the previous evil doing. But according to the Tibetan and Dharma Rakshas translation, says that if you want to confess, you should practice in 7 years, and within 7 years you should practice in the 6 periods of day and night. Then you will be able to purify it. But according to Dharma Rakshas version, it says 15 kalpas. So in the Chinese and the Tibetan version, it says 10 kalpas. Then one can attain the Dharma of endurance. Whenever we engage in our practice, in our retreat, we should not rush to attain some kinds of insight. If you want to say that, if you practice for 3 days and complain to me that you haven't met Manjushri in person yet, well, it's normal. Think about Maitreya Bodhisattva. If you do not feel that you attained some kind of insight or liberation or some kind of fruition, you would feel that, well, the Dharma is not supreme, or the teacher is not supreme. You should not think in such a way at all. Anyhow, over here, it says that one should practice confession for 7 years, because the Buddha, he himself also did that. This would be the most beneficial. And over here, the Buddha continues to say that Manjushri, know that the sutra is the bodhisattva vehicle. It can enable those who have not realized the truth to come to realization. If those who, having heard the words of the sutra, refuse to believe and accept them, and even malign them, they will go down to the evil life path. According to Dharma Rakshas translation, it says that one will only be harming oneself if upon listening to the sutra but not practicing it. So it says that the Buddha told Manjushri, saying that while this sutra, you have to study it well. If you don't understand it, you yourself should study it. If others don't understand it, you should ask others to study it. And after studying this, if you do not uphold it, if you do not practice what is taught over here, then in your own practice you will destroy yourself and the others. As I stated the other day, I think we should study the sutra first, because if you can do that, then it will be helpful to yourself and others. And bodhisattvas need to understand and accept my Dharma before they can pronounce it to the others. rules. By accepting and upholding the Dharma in this way, one can stay far away from the evil life journeys. The other translation said that one will not be harmed if one understand well this sutra and then give teachings to the others. Then oneself and the others will not be harmed. So that's why it's quite important to understand this sutra and quite important to give teachings of this sutra to the others. I think we will definitely have this opportunity later to propagate this teaching. It will be very meaningful. In the following part, the Buddha taught 4 ways of confession. The Buddha told Manjushri there are 4 equality dharmas bodhisattvas should learn. What are these 4? What are these 4? First, bodhisattvas are impartial to all sentient beings. This is quite important. We should keep that in mind. If you do not remember anything else, at least you should remember these 4 dharmas taught over here. If you don't remember anything else from this teaching, at least you should remember what is taught over here, the 4 impartiality. You should remember that a long time ago I studied the sutra that's called the Mahayana Vaipulya Sutra of Total Retention. I don't remember much from it, but at least I remember there are the 4 impartial practices. So these 4 are quite important to remember. The first one is that bodhisattvas are impartial to all sentient beings. You should not generate the kind of mind of partiality, thinking that this is good but the other is not. If you think in such a way, then you will definitely generate such kind of comments of good and bad, or such kind of thinking of good and bad. Then it is violating such. But if you generate equality, then you won't. The second one, they are impartial to all the dharmas. So if you were to think that all dharmas are equal, all dharmas are the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha and beneficial to all sentient beings, then you won't be able to violate this either. The third one is that they're impartial to the Bodhi. The 3 equals of Bodhi, the Bodhi of Shravakas, the teachings of Shravaka, the teaching of the Bodhi of Pratika Buddhas, the Bodhi of Bodhisattvas. All the 3 Bodhis, the 3 are not of any hierarchy. Then in such a way, if you understand it in such impartiality, then you won't violate it. The fourth one is that they pronounce various dharmas impartially. If you do not make such kind of a judgment saying that this is good, that is not, if you don't say that this dharma teacher's teaching of Sutrayana and that teacher teaches Tantrayana and the other one teaches on the teachings of worldly teachings, in fact they are all impartial. They are all the teachings of the Buddha. These are the 4 equality dharmas bodhisattvas should know these 4 dharmas and explain them to sentient beings. The believers will stay far away from the evil life journeys. The non-believers will go down to the evil life path. So these are the 4 equalities, 4 impartial dharmas. If among good men and good women there are those who abide in these 4 dharmas, know that they will not have to take the evil life journeys. There are another 4 dharmas. So the previously are the 4 impartialities, and over here there are the 4 dharmas for bodhisattvas to learn. What are these 4 then? First, their minds do not regress from helping sentient beings. According to the Tibetan translation and Dharma Raksa's translation, it says that one who do not have any harmful mind or intention towards the sentient beings, do not have any intention to harm anyone, Because if one were to have such harmful minds towards even one sentient being, then one will be easily slander the others because of such harmful mind. The second is that they neither disdain nor slander Dharma masters. Disdain or disparage for the ones who have lots of wealth or fame. It's difficult to disparage them, but the kind of people who are not wealthy, who do not have any stature, who are in a poor state, then everyone would disparage them. For example, if I appear to be in a rather disadvantaged state, then probably people would look down on me. But if I were to say that I am a king or I'm a prince of a certain large kingdoms, then all of a sudden everyone's attitude would change. It's very easy for people to generate such kind of a mind of disparaging others, especially the ones who lack of wealth and fame. For example, Pontsog Rinpoche, when he was young, his family was quite poor, and because of that, lots of young children would look down on him. His father died when Pontsog Rinpoche was only 8 years old, which worsened the situation. And especially, there are lots of children in his family. So after his father's passing, his life got even harder. And he was looked down by his families and friends, as well as neighbors. Then a family member, a relative, whose name is Genran Nima, who's also a turtle at the time, then invited them to go to his neighborhood and practice and chant. And he was young, and he was very happy to participate in it. And then the Toku, after seeing him, said that since your family situation is not really well right now, and because you chanted really well for the past few days, I will share some of those offerings with you. And then Pontsog Rinpoche appeared to be very happy. At that time, Pontsog Rinpoche didn't have good clothing, so all the kids around his age looked down on him, and he was very upset. He thought to himself that there's no one in this world is as pitiful as me. Then after chanting, he stayed inside the tent and cried for the whole night. And then Mipa Rinpoche appeared in his dream, inside his insight, and told Pontsog Rinpoche, do not be saddened, though you will encounter lots of suffering at this time, but in your later years you will definitely be able to propagate the teachings in the vast areas. And then he was named as Awang Lojo Zome, and that's a name given by Mipa Rinpoche to Pontsog Rinpoche at the age of 8 years. After Pontsog Rinpoche give teachings, a few of us would usually sit under his throne, and Pontsog Rinpoche sometimes would tell us about his early life. And one of his life was that when he was a few years years of age. His older brother was studying Tibetan language with him in the Laurel monastery, and at that time the teacher was very strict and often would beaten them up. And at that time, Phuntsok Rinpoche ran away from school, and his brother told Phuntsok Rinpoche said that it's better that you don't run, otherwise the teacher would definitely beat you up if you were caught. So Phuntsok Rinpoche ran away. But Phuntsok Rinpoche ran away because he said that, well, I will be beaten to death, and if I don't run, I will die, and I really can't take up all those beating anymore. So he ran away, and the teacher couldn't catch him. And Phuntsok Rinpoche at that time didn't want to go back and stayed home. One day he discovered a practice sadhana hidden by Chakme Rinpoche, that is the teaching of the line speech of Manjushri, where it says that even where it states that an old man from India who's at the age of 99 years after practicing this sadhana attained the achievement of understanding all the knowledges, and after such attainment he doesn't need to study anymore. So after discovering this teaching, Phuntsok Rinpoche practiced on it and was able to study the Tibetan language without any difficulties. There are lots of people who are as great as the great masters, that's like Phuntsok Rinpoche in their young ages. Maybe their family situation and their wealth and fame are not are looked down at by others. But if we were to do so, if we were to look down on them, if we were to slander them, then we are slandering the great bodhisattvas. So we should not generate any kind of mind of disparaging onto others. It's quite important to uphold the mind or the sacred outlook. The third one, it says that we should not slander the wise. And fourth one says that they always respect everything said by the Tathagatas. We should always respect to the teachings of the Tathagatas. We should not differentiate saying that this is supreme but that one's not. And this one we should venerate but not the other one. We should not practice on the other one. We should abandon on the other one. We should not do that at all. Even the simple language, simple verse, simple text and book, we should always venerate it on the top of our head and prostrate to it. In this way, we will not create any negative karma. So these four are really important to remember. If good men and women can competently train and learn these four dharmas, they will never go down to the evil life path. According to the translation according to another translation of Uttara Tantra Shastra, where it says that one should fear the profound teachings. One should fear to slander the profound teachings and fear to slander the teachers who give the teachings, because all of such kind of actions would lead to the Avicii hell. We are studying the Dharma to liberate, to attain liberation, not to fall into the lower realms. So if we do not understand these kind of causes that could lead us to the three lower realms, we should definitely be very careful. We should definitely study such kind of causes. And then the following part talks about the merit of this sutra. Furthermore, Manjushri, at the beginning of the translation, it kept on talking about again and again At the beginning of my translation, I often translate into Chinese as 复次, which means again or after or then. There was someone from Shanghai said that you often translate into 复次, which is not really in the Chinese language, but in Tibetan it is deni, which means then. After he told me that, I thought there's really no such word. But look at this translation, there is 复次, it appears in the sutra. Anyhow, over here it says that furthermore, Manjushri Bodhisattva can take the 7 treasures which fill up as many Buddha lands as the sands of the Ganges. And make offering every day for as many kalpas as sands of Ganges, as many Buddha Bhagavans as the sands of Ganges. It is quite immeasurable. We often say that the merit of making offering to a few hundred and tens of thousands of sanghas is quite great, where it says that, well, I have made offering on the Vajrasattva Dharma assembly for a day or 2, then that is, the merit is quite great. But compared to the merit of making offering for the length of the numbers of sands of Ganges rivers, then 1 or 2 days is definitely not a lot at all, where it says that if good men and good women can 3 times read and recite a verse or a stanza in such a wonderful Mahayana Vaipulya Sutra, then the merit they will acquire exceeds that from making those offerings. Just think about the offerings that you make for the Sangha, which would cost quite a bit. If you even make offering in Larunga for a day or 2, it costs quite a bit. But chanting 3 times would exceed the offering of the priorly stated. Ponzo Rinpoche once said that if one can study the sutra, it could purify the sin of slandering the Dharma. In order to make comparisons, in order to study it well, I made comparisons of the Tibetan and the Chinese version. So I've read the Tibetan version once, read the Chinese translation once, and a few days ago I chanted the loan, the oral transmission in Tibetan. I also read the Chinese version when I was preparing the lessons, and I'm reading it again when I'm giving teaching. So I've already done it for 5 times. Therefore, I really hope that not only you should read it once, you should read it for 3 times and even more. In such a way, the merit would be quite great, and you should trust it because this is the Vajra speech of the Buddha. In our mundane days, we consider that making offering of a flower, the merit is quite great and inconceivable. In front of such supreme object, if we were to make offering, there's definitely great merit. But that kind of merit cannot be compared with the merit of upholding and chanting and practicing the sutra, because this merit is quite great. We can definitely see that here. 经典在说后头，度和诵，度词对诵词，对诵词，前面是度诵，后面是那个度诵和。Over here it then says that the merit acquired by those who recite and uphold the sutra will be twice as much. 也是这个都有好几倍啊，就是都有很多倍。还有一些人呢，就是这个修布施啊、持戒啊、 Suppose there are those who practice almsgiving, observance of precepts, endurance, energetic progress, meditation and wisdom, the merit they achieve from cultivating these 6 paramitas also cannot compare with that of upholding the sutra. So this time I really encourage you to read the sutra. For those of you who only listen to it, definitely you haven't really read it yet once, or maybe only read it once. But I really hope that you can read and practice and study this kind of Mahayana Sutra. Then and your life definitely is very meaningful. Unfortunately, this time we can only study it in such a small circle. I really wish in the future that there will be more sentient beings who can make such wonderful, auspicious connection to this Dharma teaching. Maybe in a different time, maybe under different kinds of connection, maybe there are different changes. But in such a way, I think we should also be content. But I am content even now, though there are not many people. There are only, even if there are 3 people to study, then I'm contented. As Confucius says that one should be content or inclusive at the age of 50. So after I'm 50, I'm more the mind should be inclusive and everything, and one should feel very content about everything. And I feel similar to that. Manjushri, the name and the meaning of such sutra are so vast that they are unequaled. Previously, we stated that there were 20 bodhisattvas, including Maitreya Bodhisattva. There are about 21 bodhisattvas. So bodhisattvas should practice and chant this sutra to give teachings to the sentient beings. So you bodhisattva mahasattvas should study and learn the sutra, accept and uphold it, read and recite it, and explain it widely to the sentient beings. We can see that I really hope that you receive the oral transmission of this teaching and propagate this teaching later on, because the great masters have already translated it. The great translators already made this available, and you can spread this teaching with your own language. Otherwise, it will be such a pity for your own nation, for your own people. And this time, the teaching is very pure. The lineage is very pure. It was taught by Phuntsung Rinpoche himself. So we can say that this is definitely a very near lineage transmission. We should all make such aspiration that I will definitely spread this teaching to the others. Everyone should make such aspiration. Even if you can't find any other people, you should chant the name, or you should chant this sutra to a cat. And this is also considered as teaching, such as Phuntsung Rinpoche would give teachings to an old goat, and that goat attained liberation as well. Then those in huge multitude and Bodhisattva Mahasattvas from worlds in 10 directions all said to the Buddha, "World honored one, indeed, we will accept and uphold it as the Buddha instructs." So the Bodhisattvas all make such aspiration, saying that for such a wonderful sutra, we make aspiration as you instruct. We will definitely uphold it, practice and chant it, as well as give teachings to the others. When the Buddha was pronouncing this Dharma, Bodhisattvas as numerous as the sands of 30 Ganges rivers achieved the endurance in realization of no birth of Dharmas. Bodhisattvas as numerous as the sands of 70 Ganges rivers attained the spiritual level of no regrets from Anutara Samyak Sambodhi mind. Furthermore, the massive multitudes in 63 koti, 100,000 dayutas, 3,000 large thousandfold worlds, having heard the Buddha's words, heartily rejoice. They would have no continued flowing the stream of birth and death for 80 kalpas, and they too would reach the spiritual level of no regrets from Anutara Samyak Sambodhi mind. At the end of another 63 kalpas, they would fully attain and surpass the Bodhi. All in the multitude of bodhisattvas, gods, dragons, yakshas, gandharvas, asuras, garudas, kimnaras, and maharagas, humans, non-humans, and others, having having heard the Buddha's words, greatly rejoiced and made obeisance. Then they reverently carried out the teachings. So that comes to the end of this teaching. This year, it is quite different, and in such a very special period of time, we have already successfully completed the teaching of Mahayana Vaipulya Sutra of total retention, and I'm very delighted. Over here, it also says that the gods and humans and non-humans and every sentient beings rejoice to such wonderful completion, especially during such special period of time of the pandemic. We are very happy, and I am very grateful to the ones who are protecting this teaching, the humans and non-humans, all the volunteers and staff members, and I have lots of gratitude to all of you. When I think just a short period of time ago, it feels that even finishing hundreds of Dharma teachings are something that we take for granted, but nowadays it seems that even a few classes to complete a teaching is very grand itself. It feels very successful and very difficult. I think in the future, if different sentient beings can, through different methods, to receive the teachings of this sutra, may they also receive the same merit and the same blessings. Let it be the blessings of the Buddha, of the Bodhisattvas. They can completely and fully receive all of them. So the listeners, our audience, and the future audience and listeners can receive the great merit, and let us gain all of the merit, put all the merit together, and dedicate such merit to all the sentient beings of all the world. May they attain Anuttara Samyo Sampati and receive such a supreme fruition and attain happiness.
Sonam dai tanche zubani tona ni bejana panshe kirgana jiralon chubai shubum sonen jowa jo